Israel has blown up the Middle East, blown it up. It's just like they're remaking the Middle East. They're taking that's what they said they do. Netanyahu vowed to do this, and he's done it. So many of these countries are out of commission now. And now Iran is the fucking next target of this guy, this madman. And we're in his pocket. We have no apparent say in what he's going to do.
Netanyahu.
Yes, and AIPAC and all the Israeli mechanism that operates in the United States.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Unfiltered Take. In this clip, Oliver Stone walks onto Patrick Bet-David's show and completely dismantles the political narrative around Israel. He doesn't just challenge the status quo, he tears it to shreds. This isn't your typical polite debate. This is Stone going full throttle, exposing the power dynamics and hypocrisies many people are too scared to talk about. So as always, we'll be giving you guys our opinions and feedback as we go through this clip. So let's dive in.
Our vote, our Congress means nothing. Netanyahu comes and addresses them 3 times. They stand up like dogs, clapping for everything he says, like dogs. It was disgusting. The most disgusting moment.
There's a good point that, these wars in the Middle East, as Wesley Clark pointed out, it's basically the neocon agenda, and a lot of these neocons are dual Israeli citizens, right? And so it's like, who has benefited? We were with Shimon Peres when he said, the Iraq war benefits us. He said that I remember very clearly. He's like, it secures our border against Saddam, right, on the Iraq side. The wars are all, it's as Jeffrey Sachs pointed out, this is all Israel's policy with the Middle East. It's almost like we've basically said, okay, whatever Israel wants in the Middle East, we'll do.
This is the crux of the issue. The U.S. has given Israel over $150 billion in aid since 1948, with most of it in military funding. In 2022, the U.S. sent $3.8 billion in military aid to Israel, not to mention all of the insane amounts of money that have been sent recently. And all of this money used to fund airstrikes, illegal settlements, and the blockade of Gaza. Now, what do Americans get in return for all of this? Nothing but global backlash and a tarnished reputation. It's honestly astonishing how much the US babies Israel, and I truly don't understand for what. Let me know if you guys know why, or if you agree down in the comments.
Up and including the Syria thing, which I'm curious your position, but in the series we get into this, how much, as we know, we supported creating these Al-Qaeda in Iraq and ISIS groups, right? Jihadists, which we did in Afghanistan, by the way, in the 80s. And we've done it in Libya against Gaddafi, which was insane, right? And we did the same thing now with Syria, where again, another terrorist group is now in charge. I mean, it's pretty wild to understand that we've been fomenting these jihads against, going back to the days of Nasser, by the way. Actually, there's a long history. I think Devil's Crusade is a good book on the topic about CIA sponsorship of Muslim Brotherhood types and others against any nationalist, any Arab nationalist. And who does that ultimately benefit, unfortunately, is Israel, because Israel hated Nasser, right? An Arab nationalist. It's not from the American perspective.
Why do you think they're
us.
able to do that? Why do you think they're able to do that? Because the part about the dual citizenship, when you ask somebody who is pro-Israel Zionist, they'll say the reason why we have the dual citizenship is because when Israel became a country, they want a lot of Americans to go back, but they didn't want to give up their U.S. citizenship, so they made it where you could have dual citizenship. So that's the argument for that, they'll say, right?
We have dual citizenship with France. I mean, I don't think there's an issue with dual citizenship. The problem is that the loyalty that we find tends to be a Zionist approach. And Israel itself is not, to me, it's like I don't say there's anything issue with Israel's existence, but the Zionist position is oftentimes greater Israel.
But what I want to ask you is
extreme.
What? Because in order to be able to do that, okay, so you're in a space where the controversy came out about Harvey, right, in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein, and for the longest time you saw pictures of Michelle Obama. Harvey Weinstein is such a I don't know if you have this clip or not, Rob. It's such a wonderful, beacon of, I mean, she used some words that you talk about, a Billy Graham type, right? Is that the one, Rob? Can you play this clip? Go back and play the clip.
Thanking Harvey Weinstein for organizing this amazing day. Harvey.
Lower a little bit, Rob.
This is possible because of Harvey. He is a wonderful human being,
Wonderful,
a good
yeah.
friend, and just a powerhouse. And the fact that he
Good
and
friend.
his team took the time to make this happen for all of you should say something,
So
not
I mean,
about me or
you
about
see,
this
you
great
see
team.
this, right? You see Oprah. You see all these guys in Hollywood. Hillary. All of these guys that would say stuff about, Harvey Weinstein. Well, what a freaking, great guy. And then all of a sudden, why are people saying all this stuff? What control does he have over everybody? You want a job in Hollywood? You want a job in this? You got to go no. And then disruption shows up. Oh shit! Now everybody wants to throw him under the bus. What happened to those 30 years you said nothing about?
Sure.
What happened? Because he had power and control. So this is where I'm going with it. He had leverage. The leverage was, if you want a job, you got to do X, Y, Z for me, and I'm a boss, okay? I'm not in the world. I've read about it just like what everybody else has read about. If Israel is Israel, AIPAC, all of these guys, right? And, Sachs, the interview that was done with Tucker, there's many of these right now that are coming up. If they have this much power, what leverage do they have to be able to constantly negotiate more favorably for themselves over the American people?
I think
The
you
question I'm asking.
you have to think about it as it's like a club in a way, right? And the amount of financial influence, think about the banking side of things. Think about the infrastructure of banking. A lot of this does connect to Judaism. And it's not to say that, that they're bad people, but essentially, yes, there is a deep, deep, deep love and loyalty to Israel. It's interesting because we could be Israeli citizens based on our ancestry. Our ancestry of Bluestone is not Zionist. Our ancestry is much more cosmopolitan. And this kind of goes to the heart of a lot of the issues, I think, at the beginning of Zionism, where the cosmopolitan Jews who said, we want to assimilate into the cultures, right, of Germany, of Europe, of America, and those who said we want a nation, a land. And I think that there is a psychological factor to Jewish people basically saying you have to give to Israel, you have to be part of Israel, that's your
When did
nation.
that happen, though?
That starts in the Zionist phase of the late, but it picks up after World War I.
Late, what were you going to say? Late
Well,
what?
late 1900s is the birth, right? But then it picks up after World War I, but not really. It becomes, remember, the Zionists made deals with Nazis. The Zionists actually said Hitler was a good thing because they made a deal, the various agreements, to start to move Jews because they wanted to take Palestine at the time that Palestine was mostly Arab, right? So they knew they were a small population. They had to bring more Jews in from Europe. And so I hate to say it, but the Holocaust, they used that Holocaust to basically say we can now create a state. And that was obviously the energy that was given by Russia and America and all the UN countries to say.
He brings up an excellent point here. The Holocaust was a horrific tragedy that should have united the world against all forms of oppression. Instead, it became a justification for displacing Palestinians. Following the Holocaust, global guilt fueled support for the establishment of Israel in 1948. But this came at the catastrophic cost of the Nakba, when over 700,000 Palestinians were expelled or fled from their homes. This decision, rooted in the desire to protect Jewish lives, ignored the rights of Palestinians who became collateral damage in the quest to address historical wrongs. The Holocaust should have been a lesson in universal justice, but instead it created another cycle of dispossession. I guess the circle just continues.
Israel can have a state.
And by the way, you know what I'll say to that? So here's I trust my enemies very well. By the way, I trust my enemies more than I trust my friends sometimes. You know why? Because what does your enemy think about next movie coming up? I don't know the competitive space. I'm assuming there's competition with Your Name and all these other guys that are making movies, right? I'm assuming the competition, if they can find a way to have 7,500 negative reviews written on Rotten Tomatoes about a movie you come out with, I'm assuming the dirty enemy would probably do something like that to hurt you, right? Yeah. I'm assuming the enemy would do whatever they can that I'm trying to raise $1 billion from somebody or $500 million from somebody to find a way for that deal to not get done if it becomes public, right? I've experienced this with guys. When I was trying to sell my company, the enemy would call the guy that wanted to buy the company and say, hey, you sure you want to go through this? And then boom. we were able to get the deal done, and we sold it for $250 million. Okay, but I know I trust the enemy. All I'm trying to ask, I'm not surprised that Israel did that.
No.
Good for them that they're doing that. I applaud you for being a good negotiator. Great. But all I'm asking is, if America, you read these books, you know, and we've all read these books. When you go through the book, the question I want to ask is, what leverage do they have for America to continue to cave when negotiating? We also want this, and that, and this. Okay. That's not how negotiation works. Like earlier we're talking about when you're signing a talent, right? Hey, I want 6 massages a day. I want my gym to be here. I want that. I want this. No, at some point, like, we're not doing that. But what leverage does this person have for you to say yes to 80% of their requests? What are we getting in exchange to say yes to this? And no matter how many people I ask that question of.
Well, I think there's a couple of factors. As I mentioned, financial. I think you do have a lot of Jewish banking. We know that. That's historical. They're deeply tied into the banking system, including to the Federal Reserve. I mean, you look at even in Europe, the Rothschilds were the ones that got the letter from Balfour. I mean, the Rothschild obviously are a very wealthy, influential family, right? And that's not the only one. There is the Warburgs and others that were very influential in building our Federal Reserve system here. So Schiff and all these families. So again, you're talking money, but you're also talking about a base. From strategic perspective, I think that the U.S. and British saw Israel as a base into the Arab world, which I call Israel the last the Crusader Kingdom.
I absolutely love this point because this comparison is striking. Just as the Crusaders sought to impose Western dominance on the Middle East centuries ago, Israel's establishment with significant Western backing serves as a modern-day outpost for Western influence. They were literally characterized by militarized fortifications, religious exclusivity, and a constant need for external support from Europe to maintain their grip on the region. Does this sound familiar? Now, look at Israel. Since its creation in 1948, Israel has functioned as a Western-backed stronghold in the Middle East. Billions in U.S. military aid, advanced weaponry, and unwavering political support show the logistical and financial lifeline that kept the Crusader state alive centuries ago. However, just like the Crusaders, this has alienated the indigenous population, in this case being the Palestinians.
Because remember, as you know, historically, we fought the West Catholic Church, sent crusaders out to try to recapture Jerusalem in 1095, and they did, and then they got kicked out a couple hundred years later, right? But they never forgave that. So I think that the Catholics and the West, psychologically and militarily and historically, actually see Israel as the Crusader Kingdom that gives them a foothold into the Middle East. So this is a 1,000-year war, and that's actually also how a lot of the Arabs see it, which is why people get caught up on the Jewish thing, and they miss the point of the Arabs looking at it as the West trying to have a Crusader kingdom called Israel in the Middle East. And as we know, most of the Jews that are there are from Europe, right? They're from, whether they're Khazarian or whatnot, so they're not from that land. At least maybe they were thousands of years ago, maybe they weren't. But the point is that this is an issue in the psychology of the Arab world, the Crusades coming back to haunt them. I think that's a big issue, and people don't look at it that way because they think of it as Jewish versus Muslim, and I think it's much deeper because, as you know, the Jews and Muslims have gotten along. The Jews used to go to the Muslim countries when they were persecuted by the Catholics. When they were persecuted in Spain, the Jews and Muslims both were persecuted in Spain and kicked out, right, by Ferdinand and Isabel in 1495, right, when 1492, when Columbus was sailing, and they kicked the Jews and the Muslims out of Spain at that time. They kicked them out of, as you know, across Europe. Many times they purged them. They would go to Muslim countries, Jews would. And they all lived together side by side in Palestine and obviously in Turkey and other countries. So it wasn't a Jewish-Muslim thing. I think this is a West versus East thing, very much.
I don't know if I disagree with that.
Bravo.
But I think the question I ask is the leverage. What leverage should it have? Is it just money?
Well,
is it really just money?
What about
that-
AIPAC? You don't mention AIPAC.
But even if you go with that, right, and you look at how much AIPAC gives, for example, okay. And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here to get to the bottom of the
You always do.
argument. Yeah, and I enjoy that. I think that's the right way to be. But think about Elon Musk, right? Okay. So how much did AIPAC give total contribution 2024? Can you pull that up, Rob? I actually don't know the number. Total,
This is
what does that
according to
say?
Open Secrets.
So pro-Israel, is this AIPAC? 2 Republicans, they gave 2.2 million. 2 Democrats, they gave 2.2 million. Okay. So a total of 4.4 million, and they gave it to pro-Israel PAC candidates. So they give $29,000 more to Republicans than Democrats. Not a big difference. But can you tell me, look up total how much money AIPAC gave to everybody last year. Total money AIPAC gave, okay? In 2024. In 2024. Yeah, just typing in 2024. I actually just want to know, I guess you pulled the first one out. It's the same number?
Mm-hmm.
Really? So the number is how much? Okay, they gave 2.4 million in lobbying. The amount of contribution they got was $43 million. Okay, that's AIPAC. By the way, I thought the number was in the billions. So $43 million. Can you go type in how much Elon Musk gave Donald Trump to a PAC?
Does this include the PAC expenditures, or is PAC excluded from that?
So watch this. Elon Musk spends $277 million
Right.
to back Trump and Republican candidates. Realistically, one could say that's 50 times more, right? 55 times more. So again, for me, I really want to know.
You're ignoring the concept of influence and how long AIPAC has
Look,
been around.
I don't think it's the right number you're pulling up, because I think, Rob, they spent
On PACs.
$25 million to get rid of Bowman. So that's why I don't think that's the right number.
And
they
they'll
type
say-
in how much did AIPAC spend to get rid of Bowman. Can you just Google that? Go for it.
And
there
are
you
these
go.
PACs private? I mean, we don't know the numbers on the PACs.
Well, the NGOs are the ones that we don't know who the contributors are, right? The NGOs which, okay, there it is, that one right there. AIPAC has spent over $100 million on 2024 elections. That's the number I want to see. So very bad sign for democracy. AIPAC has spent over $100 million. AIPAC billionaire funded Super PAC has helped defeat 2 of the most vocal opponents of Israel, which one of them was, Jamal Bowman. And they spent a lot of money to get rid of that guy. How much was it to get rid of him?
AIPAC, the massive financial influence in U.S. politics, exemplifies how Israel secures unwavering American support. This sort of honestly answers my earlier question I asked at the beginning of this YouTube video, which is, how does Israel get away with it? And a lot of it is this money that funds campaigns, lobbying efforts, and media narratives that align U.S. policies with Israel's interests, even when they contradict international law or completely human right principles. It is honestly insane to me how much money is involved in US politics, and makes, I think, a lot of people question, because I certainly do, the actual authenticity of politics. This dynamic underscores the power imbalance at the heart of this conflict, where one side enjoys limitless support while the other struggles for recognition. But I think, honestly, this time around, the people are seeing the truth.
Can you pull up that number? I don't know why I think it was $25 million. Could have been a little bit more than that. But the reason why I'm making this argument is I'm making the argument to say, some may not say anything about Elon because maybe Elon is supporting what you support, right? It's like, okay, hey, great. And by the way, I'm pro-Elon. I like what Elon is doing. But all I'm trying to say is, I get the frustration with the Israeli. I lived in Iran. So I have my own story with Muslims. I saw what that was like. And I witnessed it every day, 11 years. I went to Germany, lived at a refugee camp. There's a lot of Muslims there, a lot of them, Pakistani, Afghanis, a lot of them, okay? I saw what happened there. I've had an insurance company I built from 0 to 60,000 agents. We have a lot of Muslims in the company. Guess what? Phenomenal experience. I had the experience there. So, but it's not 100% across the board with everybody, right? America's 13% black. Our agency was 24% black. America's 24% Hispanic. Our agency was 51% Hispanic. When we built the insurance agency, and I got a chance to watch these guys because we're in 50 states. But sometimes, it can go in a direction where I just want to know, what is their leverage? Is the leverage holding people hostage?
Patrick. I think their leverage is a lot of different things that add up in the end. This was an awesome clip with some great opportunity for us to give you our unfiltered take as always, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. As all of you know, this is a place for discussion. Comment down below if you agree or disagree with any points made in this clip and your overall thoughts. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.